So yeah, thanks everybody. I'm going to provide a quick update on the ATLAS Working Group for the current year. I'm doing this on behalf of the other work group leads, which include Alexi and Chris. And I guess the first thing to note is that our work group has been on pause for the last couple of years. So the first most important update is that we are back. We held our first meeting earlier in February, which also happened to be a 2/2/22 date, but just with one less two. And our mission as a working group is to provide a forum for the Odyssey community of developers that are interested in improving the open source software solutions of Atlas and WebAPI. And these tools aim to provide capabilities to design standardized analytics to execute on the OMOP Common Data Model. And since our working group has a technical bend to it, I wanted to just take a moment to kind of remind folks that may not be familiar with the architecture involved with Atlas, what are the key components and what technologies are involved. So to start, it all starts with the OMOP Common Data Model. So you need to have at least one or maybe more databases converted to the OMOP CDM. Once you've kind of reached that milestone, you can start to install the other parts of the tool stack, which include WebAPI. And WebAPI is a Java component with a Postgres database that's used to basically provide the plumbing between your OMOP Common Data Model and the web application of Atlas. And so it contains a number of APIs that can be called to kind of like the basic plumbing work, which is like saving and retrieving information. And then the other part of the stack is the Atlas front end. It's a JavaScript application that is used to design the different elements of an observational study. So as we've been progressing through Phenotype February, hopefully you've had an opportunity to at least see some screen clips of Atlas or even go in and play around in the demo environment that we have. So really kind of working left to right, we're going to have the databases. You will have a Java REST API, and then on the right here, a JavaScript layer. So if you're familiar with these technologies or you would like to get familiar with these technologies, then this is a good working group if you'd like to hear more about that. So to talk a little bit about the current state of affairs with Atlas and Web API, I just wanted to highlight a few opportunities and challenges within the community. So first, installing and deploying Atlas and Web API can be difficult. I'd say there's a pretty high bar of technical understanding um, that requires you to understand a bit about the infrastructure that you want to use for deployment, some of the development tools that are used in the deployment process, and then different ways in which you might want to deploy the tools in your environment. There are a number of options available to the community, such as using things like Broadsea, which provides a Dockerized container for these tools. We have instructions on how to install these tools on your PC or your Mac. And we also have options for deploying these tools in the cloud. But it's not always easy to find this documentation or just kind of have a cohesive set of instructions for how you might go about deploying these tools. The other challenge or opportunity we have is the code documentation. So it's hard to know what already exists in Web API and how to make use of it. Or if you run into a problem with Atlas, how might you go about finding the JavaScript classes or components that are used and potentially causing the problem? So with these in mind, we've developed two key objectives and key results that we're aiming to accomplish in this first quarter. The first objective is to improve the deployment of Atlas and Web API. And to do that, we've defined two key results to start the year. So the first is to kind of develop a document that just describes where the current process is for deploying Atlas and Web API and pull together the resources that already exist. And as part of developing that document, we want to identify limitations and opportunities to make the deployment process easier or more accessible. And then our second objective is to improve the overall documentation of Atlas and Web API. So this is focused on two key results, which is to document 100% of the Web API endpoints, and then update the README of the Web API GitHub page to just reference this newly updated documentation. So to close it out, when and where do we meet? So the first Wednesday of the month is when we plan to meet, and our next meeting is set for March 2nd at 9 a.m. And if you want to access the Teams channel and join us, you could use the Odyssey Working Group Microsoft form and just check off the Atlas Working Group as part of your selection. And that's it from me.